2nd of January 2021. The Mattriarchy has returned live. And we are here on the special Saturday edition of the Mattriarchy with a special guest star, Neostar Productions, who I have been wanting to have on for 2 years. You're always working whenever we are on air. So,
yeah, what can I say? Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here. What can I say? I would love to do these live streams, a lot more often and regularly, but for some reason everybody has to do their live streams at night.
Awesome.
So, I probably too.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you do?
Oh, my occupation? Well, I happen to work as a night custodian in a trucking company. So suffice to say, there's always something for me to clean up.
Okay. So that's cool. I work in human services. I actually work with youth, mentally ill youth. Yeah. That's my job there. So, but when I'm not doing that, I have this little talk show, and I try to make comics too. So I've been doing that for a while. And I first ran into you in the chats of various YouTube groups, and you talked a lot about your character. But what really got my interest, I can't even remember what it was. I mean, I remember what it was. I can't remember when it was. We were chatting about something in the chat of somebody's show. You and I were, and you suggested that I should seek out Black Belt Jones.
Oh yeah, Black Belt Jones, hot potato, and basically anything with Jim Kelly in it.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what it was we were talking about, but you said you need to seek that out, and I found a 4-movie collection of Kelly stuff at Walmart or something. And I haven't made it all the way through it, but I did watch Black Belt Jones, and it was amazing.
Oh yes, indeed.
And for lots of reasons. And so I definitely want to spend some time today talking about Riser Man. I want to talk about your history in terms of what makes you feel creative, but I definitely want to come back around to talking about Jim Kelly and Black Belt Jones and that kind of thing too, because I think that'd be really fun. So,
all righty.
So I am going to go ahead and get this while we're doing here. Let me ask you a question, and then I will make sure that the link is out there on the Twitter so that people can tune in. So tell me, Neo, tell me how you got into comics. I mean, what was your history with comics, sequential storytelling?
Oh boy. Well, I suppose it's interesting to say, but my primary exposure to comic book superheroes, for the most part, was actually through animation. Well, like a lot of folks, I grew up watching Spider-Man almost more on television than I before I actually got to read his actual comics and stuff. There was the 90s cartoon, Spider-Man's Amazing Friends, and somehow even caught the ones from like the 70s as well. Matter of fact, when I was actually aware of comics, it was kind of the Image comics that were being pushed around that time. Spawn, Savage Dragon, Young Bloods. Which was kind of sad because I found their designs interesting, but I didn't really know too much about them. Honestly, all the big mainstream heroes at the time were in cartoons. So suffice to say, I think I got more interested in comics almost by proxy.
We are having HG. I'm not going to try to say his name, is in the chat and asks if your connection is bad. And we are getting some hiccuping with your microphone. I'm not sure.
Yeah, about that. That's not actually the microphone. Oh, that's most likely me. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah, I kind of have a bit of a speech impediment that I thought I ultimately corrected a while back, but
Well,
it does seem to pop up when I'm actually having discussions with people.
well, and it's easy to for those sort of things to come up when you're nervous, and when some dork in a basement in Nebraska starts asking you questions, it puts you on the spot. I can see that being a so we'll try to do a little more give and take, make it feel a little more comfortable there. So also, for some reason, I'm using the Restream platform, and sometimes it just
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
like to pick people up at all. Really, I've had some really bad luck with folks. So I might switch back over to StreamYard, despite the fact that I could be on Twitch. Oh, okay.
well,
And Herove says it's Hervoye. Hervoye.
oh yeah, ooh la la.
Hervoye Grahovic.
Hmm. Well,
And the 10-cent story has joined us as well. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming in, guys.
how you
But yeah,
doing, sir?
you got into comics through cartoons, and I don't think that was like in the last 30 years. I don't think that's really an uncommon story, right? So
Yeah,
with myself, I was reading comics in the newspaper and stuff like that. Um, all that kind of stuff was a lot of my first introduction. But if I hadn't watched, Super Friends, if I hadn't seen, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, these are back in the '80s, right?
yeah.
Because that's how old I am. But if I hadn't seen, Mickey Mouse cartoons, then I don't know that I would have got into comics. In fact, very directly, I started hanging out at the spinner rack in my grocery store, because they had DuckTales comics and the old Uncle reprints of the old Uncle Scrooge comics. And I had moved from Tulsa, where I lived when I was very young, up
Hmm.
to Scotts Bluff, Nebraska, where I live now, and we didn't have access to see DuckTales. So I was missing my Ducks adventure stories, and there they were at the co-op, and that's where I saw Batman, and that's where I saw Green Hornet, and I said, what's this about? And and I knew Batman, but I didn't. It sparked the new interest seeing it in print in a way that it hadn't for me otherwise. So I think
Oh,
that your story of seeing that excellent '90s Spider-Man cartoon, which was very, very good. And
radioactive spider blood.
and I can't even tell you the number of people we've had on who've said that their first bite into comics was the Batman the Animated Series, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's just Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, whatever you think of them as people, the art they produced was phenomenal.
Oh yes, indeed. Hey, let me tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I think is really interesting too is that you have in a lot of the stuff that we've kind of talked about through different channels, you have a lot of interest in like the Japanese style stuff,
Oh yeah.
the anime manga. How did that become a thing for you? Was that what a thing that you just like when you saw it? It was like, "Ooh, I like this."
Well, ironically enough, I almost say a situation with anime and manga was about the same as with comic books because for a certain for a certain period of time we've actually low key been getting anime without realizing it. Right,
Yeah,
stuff like Ultron, Speed Racer, Battle of the Planets, all actually anime. But considering how westernized it was, a lot of us didn't really know the difference or really care, frankly.
well, I mean that's definitely true. I mean, I remember once again being a kid in the '80s, right? We had on Saturday morning cartoons. I'd watch Pole Position, which was straight out of Japan. We had I
Not
grew up
also a Namco
watching.
arcade game.
I grew up watching the Superbook in church and stuff, and that was a Japanese co-production. So I think that those things are definitely things that were near and dear to the American mind that we just didn't necessarily know about in a lot of times. But I had never picked up a manga like an actual like book version until I got My Hero Academia, the first volume. And I'd read that so that was just last year. For whatever reason, the Japanese comics never really never caught my interest, and but my kids read them, but it just wasn't something that felt like it was my thing yet. So
yeah, heck, I didn't even start picking up manga until they started releasing the Shonen Jumps, and that was like a large collective of different manga different chapters from different manga. So when I got first exposed to it, I kind of went all in. Yeah, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Yu Yu Hakusho, definitely my favorite among them. But yeah.
Well, and that's one thing too about my little town, right? There's not a lot of places to buy manga here, right? You can get it online. They sell a couple of volumes at Walmart every once and again, but like our bookstores never carried it. So that was one of the things that was just sort of interesting too. I think that people in larger markets had more access to it than people out in the sticks, but the even people just a little bit younger than me, the anime that came out from that was up on Cartoon Network or was available online now, huge followings. So at our little I'm on the board of our local mini con. We have a little mini comic convention we host in October, and I'm on the board there. And at our mini con every year, it's just like half, 3/4, 7/8 of the costumes are all from like anime or manga that I'm vaguely aware of.
Hey, better mini con than no con.
Yeah. So I don't really pay attention to a lot of that stuff. I don't know it, but I can spot it because I've seen it.
Oh yeah.
So so you got into comics, and through the animation door. And I think that's a really cool really cool thing. I think that's something that even in the indie sphere we need to be mindful of in a lot of ways. But what is it that made you want to create?
Well, that's also another story sense. Actually, I won't lie to you, Matt. A lot of my creative influence have always been almost indirect. If you well, one thing always seems to expose me to another, and I always just get sent down like these massive rabbit holes of different media stories and content. And it's like going through. I almost want to say like the Hanna-Barbera door. Yeah, every time you go in one place, just come out of another.
I know exactly what you mean in terms of that, because like one of the things I haven't had much time to do it lately, but one of the hobbies that I've really enjoyed in the last decade is going through old like abandoned webcomics. And even from way back in the day, webcomics had such close communities of creators, right? So they'd cameo, people would cameo in each other's comics, and our characters would cross over formally and informally and all that kind of stuff. And so you're going through and you're reading an old webcomic that nobody's thought about in like 10 years or whatever, and then you could find it connects to a different webcomic, and then you can expand your understanding of the story you're reading by reading this other story over here, and and it just explodes. And I'm the kind of guy that like if I get into something, like I want to know like the nuts and bolts of it. I want to really bear down and dig into it, and
yeah, sure, man.
Just know all that kind of stuff. So there are certain fandoms that I've avoided on purpose because I'm just not willing to dedicate myself to learning about them. Right. So,
within reason.
So like Doctor Who, right?
Yeah. I would just stuck Back to the Future.
I won't touch Doctor Who, right? I just won't do it because I know there's just too much, and I need to live. I need to have a life.
I don't mind Doctor Who. I just never took the time to just dive into that. I only got so much I've reached the areas, But yeah, but back to what you were saying, and when you mentioned what drove me to create, well, well, like I said, it was kind of indirect. I see all these things people create comics, cartoons, movies, but for some reason it never actually dawned on me till partway in the middle school that people actually can make their own things. I mean, I just never associated all these big productions with like an individual creative pool until I went onto this one website they used to. Well, I suppose it's still around, but it's like Newgrounds, where they make all these flash animated cartoons,
Right.
comics, flash games, and all that. It wasn't until I saw this one pretty goofy thing called Kermit Combat, made by a Rocky Pinnacle some odd 20 years ago. Oh, it was basically just him having some sort of fantasy brawl with like Kermit the Frog. It was goofy as heck. It didn't make too much sense, but at the same time, it was essentially his own thing. It was like his own unique cast of folks, and it wasn't until then I thought, oh, I suppose I can try and make things of my own, see how that works out. So, oh yeah, eventually I started making my own characters. Unfortunately, Rise Man isn't among them. I didn't start on him until almost almost after high school. Oh, basically, I was honestly just throwing things at the wall, trying to come up with stories. I was basically trying to do my own series before having any actual formal skill in character creation or story, right?
Well, I think that's really how we all get to it, right? I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning and it's like, well, suddenly I have this feeling that I'm a master storyteller and go out and write the works of Tolkien or Tennyson, right? Everybody's gotta you gotta start at the bottom. You gotta fight your way up. You gotta make it work. And I'm reminded of Van Gogh. Vincent Van Gogh wrote in his it was either his journal or a letter to his brother, one of the two, I can't remember, but he wrote that I have to ruin 100 canvases before I have one worth keeping, right? And of course, he was talking about learning to paint and draw, but I think the discipline is similar, right? You just gotta, you just gotta go at it. And I'm trying to remember what it was, but there was a writer who said, I think it's your first million words are garbage, so hurry up and get them out of the way quick. You know? Yeah, I'm not sure if that was the actual number, but it was something like that, where it was just like, I mean, we all got to start with something that's super derivative and ridiculous, and excuse me, and then learn from the masters as we go from there. So when you look at, like, when you were first starting to create, was there a particular genre that you were drawn to? Was it superheroes? Was it sci-fi? What were we at with that?
I would say it's a middle ground between superheroes as well as I think it's described as battle anime stuff like Dragon Ball Z, Saint Seiya, and all that. But then have like superhero action. I almost want to say it was technically urban fantasy, since a lot of the characters had powers and abilities. They fought crime, but I don't think they actually were fundamentally superheroes. Not all of them, at least not the ones that made at the top. They didn't really all have costumes, just sort of themes and whatnot. They practiced martial arts. They dabbled in the occult, and some were essentially just simply battle droids and stuff.
Yeah, I've always had a. I don't. It's probably being a child of the '90s, right? Because I came of age in the '90s. So, but it's probably that time frame of when I was in high school. I've always had a softness for, or an affinity for the costumes that are more like clothes and less like costumes. And I know like some like other Gen X comic guys are like, no, that's that tactical look is stupid. You've got to have a real superhero costume. And I'm like, dude, Superboy's leather jacket was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Or even like the t-shirt and jeans from the Jeff Johns Teen Titans. Now, I don't like the way Jeff Johns handled the Teen Titans in a lot of ways, because I think Young Justice was better, but the costumes that they had him in, and like Cassie Sandmark's Wonder Girls, just jeans in the top. I thought it looked really good. I thought it was great. And hey, Star has joined us.
Oh yeah, he's the one that brought up show. Oh, and that's what I was looking for. I was associated with a title more than the actual show.
Right.
But yeah, thanks, Star.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of those sort of tactical things in the right context. I think that they can. Cool. I think you can have both classic and the other on there too. And with our webcomic Forces, we've tried to kind of shake it up between those. So some characters have just street clothes. Some characters have street clothes that look like a costume. Some characters have super costumes, and we kind of play with it as we go from there. But yeah, I just, that's kind of my thing. So you felt like that whole shonen, that whole battle royale comic, and I thought it was really cool too how you were talking about how the idea that you like this idea of these characters that had some of them had powers and some of them had this and that, and I think that's really a fun way to play with it too. With there's magic and there's powers and there's all these things mixed together. Because for me, coming from a background of being a huge post-crisis DC Comics fan, that was my wheelhouse, where all that stuff had a home, and it was all just part of it together. So are there any particular stories or ideas from those old days, those first days, that you felt were good enough to follow up with, that you felt were things that you wanted to pursue? Or is that something that's been sort of like, nah, I've left childish things in my childhood? Where are you at with that?
Well, let's see. Funny you should mention that. I over time, I've kind of found myself drawn on back to some previous ideas and on that was from when I was a younger creator. I feel there is plenty of space for both things to exist within the genre, without too much extreme overlap. Like I know I mentioned Riser Man fairly later, but without getting into too much exposure, there is actually another hero in his series that kind of harkens back to my earlier days of creation, where we have a character that is fundamentally a superhero, although it's primarily in name only. He does protect his community. He does fight crime, but the things he fights are somewhat different than what you typically see in main Western superheroes to some extent. It's like the things you would typically find in these shonen animes are kind of more of the recurring threat of his time, more so than now. But those elements do creep back a lot more powerful and dangerous now in the superhero era.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the stuff you'd see in like Silver Age comics, seeming kind of goofy or over the top until you realize how dangerous a lot of those villains are with their goofier plans being translated in a more, or I don't want to say like realistic context, but proving just as dangerous now as it was then.
Yeah. No, and I think that's so let me ask you this one here. Here's another big debate in terms of tone. when this you look at trying to tell stories, are you wanting to tell stories in a universe that is super serious in kind of the the pocket era, the Bronze Age kind of a feel, or are you hearkening more back to that the semi silly Silver Age, with the giant robots and the billboard traps and all that kind of stuff? What kind of thing do you like to write?
Oh boy, man, that's actually a genuine struggle I've been and kind of having with myself as of late, trying to balance the tone of Riser, man, trying to give it some level of fun and humor while still maintaining the gravity of the threats in which he faces as Riser, man. And because yeah, like I said, Riser Man was influenced not just by Western comic books like Spider-Man and the Flash, but it does harken back to a lot of very old school anime and manga where the hero's origins are I don't want to say more tragic, but rather counterintuitive to what you typically find on find in this current comics and such. Let's see.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that part of why I think there's been this movement in comics in the West, because I really feel like comics lost their way in a lot of ways. I think Western comics have sort of lost their way. And I think that's part of why we're not getting a lot of new readers, is because everybody's trying to write Watchmen. Everybody's trying to and they have been for a couple of decades.
Oh man, don't even get me started on Watchmen.
So, oh my goodness. But I mean, everything gets, there's so much, there's so little hope in a lot of modern comics. And one of the things that newer comics, or that old comics used to have, is that they'd find a way to make, there was enough suspension of disbelief, right? Where the stakes inside of the story seemed real. But at the same time, it wasn't like heavy and oppressive, right? Like, you look at The Killing Joke, right? The Killing Joke is terrifying in some ways, like it on a surface level, at least. You look at all the horror that the Joker's perpetrating and how he's torturing people and all that kind of stuff. And so there's this surface level horror that's part of it. But it really changes the world of Batman to allow that level of horror into it. But if you look at, like, some of the Silver Age stuff, like Robin Dies at Dawn, and even the origin of Batgirl, the first appearance of Batgirl, of Barbara Gordon, and the threats that were in there. The Killer Moth was a genuine threat within the story, but he's not going to keep you up at night, right? You're not. The Killer Moth doesn't necessarily make you peer into the darkness of your own soul and wonder what's wrong with you. But
all it takes is one bad day.
Right. So I think both in the story, suspension of disbelief, there's a genuine threat in there. You can definitely see that, like, yeah, of course, Barbara Gordon's going to survive, but is she? Right. So it allows you a little to keep some serious tone, but also not be oppressive with it. And I think that modern writers, because they've seen the power of telling these R-rated type stories, that they have a divorce from the kind of what do you call it? The illusion of change that they have there. So they set up these real changes, and then they can't really tell the story on the other side of that. And that's my take on it. I think it's sort of a Sam and Diane of action stories, if that makes sense.
I remember an interesting quote I heard a while back that always seems apropos when somebody brings up Watchmen, and the idea of constantly deconstructing characters, particularly superheroes, as well as constantly owing them at their lowest. Everybody always wants to deconstruct superheroes, but they never want to take responsibility in building them back
Mhm.
up. It's always someone else's problem after the story. Ori.
And I think there is an exception to that, right? Uh,
Yeah.
I think there's been a couple, but you look at what Robert Venditti did with Hawkman, right? I think I don't know if you read that or not, but that's a narrative.
Unfortunately, not. I really meant to. Hawkman fascinated me for the longest time,
Oh yeah,
but I only managed to see glimpses of his story. I just honestly meant to just go in and binge a lot of the Hawkeye volumes because there's a lot with that character that kind of that I kind of just got a feel for, but I never really stopped to just immerse myself in him
yeah.
yet.
Well, there is a lot of good Hawkman
That's the
stuff, but
whole
Venditti did a really good job of elevating the character, and even in the first, I only picked it up for the first 12 issues, maybe 13. But one of the things, so I need to go back and get the trades, right? But anyway, but one of the things with it that they did a really good job of is that they present Hall, Carter Hall, with his past, this history, and he's kind of disjointed and broken from his own history because of how time has moved on.
Indeed, one minute he's an alien, the other's a reincarnation.
Right. Well, and then, but then what Venditti did is that all of the histories are true. Right. So as this thing goes along, he's rebuilding his own life, his own backstory, his own history. And so he is, and it's also exposing dark secrets and all that kind of stuff. So he's both deconstructing and reconstructing the character as the story moves along. And I thought that was really, really good. It was a really fun thing to kind of move on with that. And I think he did a really good job of it. But I think there are other people that have similarly done similar things. You know, you look at like what Pete Tomasi did with the Super Sons, right? And in a lot of ways, you know, that was a reconstruction of Superman from based on how the New 52 had treated him, and also was a humanization of the Damian Wayne character. And I think that's one of the reasons it really resonated with a lot of fans too.
Exactly.
And another example, Ed Brubaker with what he did with Captain America, where he really, you know, he really brought him down, but also, you know, brought him up again. And it also made Bucky a character worth remembering.
Good old Bucket Barnes.
Yeah, Brubaker, I think, had a real talent for that. He did a similar I don't know if you ever read his Catwoman from, I guess that's 15 years ago now. But
no, I can't say I have.
It was first 20 issues, I think, where he and Darwin Cook together, and they really did a great job of you know, building the Selena character into something that was very complicated. And Catwoman had a series in the 90s where it wasn't as nuanced. It was very fun. It was a lot of heists and a lot of things like that too. But it was that was mostly a heist book, and it got a lot when Brubaker took over or relaunched the title in the early 2000s. It became a very much more complicated story, and I think it was a very good one. But yeah, there are a few writers that do, I think, rise to the challenge of reconstructing these characters. I think James Robinson is another good one with his Starman stories. But at the same time, you have a lot of people that I think miss that, right? And I think, you know, or even editors that move along that way just to, oh drat, dude, I just realized I forgot to grab my charger. Hang on, I might disappear for a second, but I gotta get it. I thought I had it, and I don't think I do. I don't see it here. Okay, sorry. I'll be right back.
All right, no problem. I'll just okay, let's see. Filling up space. Let's see. Oh, I got it. The brilliant star that shines through the night, the speeding blur that confounds crime. Riser Man stands before you. That's how that intro goes. Let's see. Brilliant star that shines through the night, the sonic boom that shakes the room. Riser Man stands before you. Let's see, maybe I can try repeating other intros without going all in. Let's see. The brilliant star that shines through the night. The ghost pepper in the throat of rhyme. The hot grease that deep fries evil. The thorn in the side of villainy. Riser Man stands before you. Okay, let's see what other intros are on there. Let's see. The brilliant star shines through the night. The lead weight on the toes of tyranny. The spirit of vengeance that. Let's see, what was the spirit of vengeance that haunts your nightmares? The spirit of vengeance that haunts your nightmares. Riser Man stands before you. Let's see. You're probably thinking these intros are based on Darkwing, on the Darkwing Duck intros, but that's only like, after it's actually Darkwing Duck mixed with Hurricane Polymar. The last section of the intro was based on Polymar's. Polymar stands before you. Right after his whole let's see how Polymar's intro goes. Whenever evil plagues this world, the wrath of justice summons me forth. Hurricane Polymar stands before you. Yeah, so that's how that one goes. So I pretty much just brought the two together. So, it's like Wing mixed with Polymar for the Riser Man intros. I'm not entirely sure whether I'll use that in the comics. I'll have to focus test that with some editors to see how well that would go. Oh, I mean, I want to make sure Riser Man is fun and entertaining, but I don't want him to be like too much of a goofball unless I can create some hilarious rebuttals for the villains. The brilliant star shines through the night. The steel trap that ensnares evil. Riser Man stands before you. Riser. And what's he doing? Weird. Did he just call himself a trap? Yeah, something to that effect. Oh boy. Well, let's see. Still on air here. What else can I talk about until Matt gets back? So, how's everyone doing tonight? Oh, right. I'm actually on the stream and not the chat. I'm so used to, having that option. Hope everyone's having a happy New Year so far. Mine's been going pretty well. Well, it's only been its second day, but I'm making progress here. Man, so much dead air. How am I supposed to fill the time here? Let's see. I mean, I suppose I could try hanging for a bit, but I don't really have a song prepared here. It's really short notice. Oh boy. I mean, let's see. I don't really have a song prepared here. It's really short notice. Oh boy. I mean, let's see. I don't really have a song prepared here. It's really short notice. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. So keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies and those dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. You'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Kind of just filling time until Matt gets back here. Let's see. According to him, the PC's restarting, so he should be here any moment now. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed my impromptu performance. Yeah, I used to do singing video a long time ago. They were a little on the hokey. So on one hand, I'm glad I was able to do them, but I'm kind of embarrassed when people actually do check them out. Really.
So, folks, if you're back, if you've come, if you've noticed or whatever, we're back. So, Neo, if you happen to be out there in the ether, I'm going to message you on Twitter here in a second. But if you happen to be out there, just come back in. The same link should work. I had to refresh the whole thing. So, oh my goodness, how stupid all of this is. But here, that's the whole works of it all, guys. So yeah, if you ever decide you want to host your own YouTube show, you think, hey, I'm really good at talking, I have things I care about, this could be fun. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And in this case, it means making sure you have the charger for your computer before you start broadcasting. I didn't do that at all. Utterly not prepared. Well, really for anything. But we'll see here. So, hit the wrong button here. In a second, I'm sure that Neo will be back with us to discuss all things nerdy. I am back on. Oh my goodness. This is what you call embarrassing. Drat. So yeah. I guess my turn now to fill time for those people who watch on the replay. Because some of the timer we're actually down won't show up on the replay on YouTube anyway. And so we'll just have to see what will happen when all of that goes down. And I do think that Neo will eventually come back to us. Hopefully. Because I haven't gotten all of my questions about Riser Man answered. Just the very big bah. Hang on, I'll be back in a second, he says. Oh, hey, I think I hear him. Come on, give me the juice.
Hello.
Are you back?
Hello.
Sorry about that, man.
We haven't gone so long.
I have the least professional show on YouTube, so that's good.
It's okay. I'm far from. I'm a professional myself. Oh, let me tell you.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. You were serenading us while I was rebooting my computer. So.
Oh no! You guys actually heard that? Oh, jeez,
yep. It wasn't bad. It was a soulful rendition. I liked it. I sang along, but you couldn't hear me, but that's okay.
Well, that's nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, hold on. Let me just get my voice back here. Okay, there we go.
There you go. So, growing up, like I said, we talked about this a little bit before. You got into animation, you got into anime and manga, you got into comics, all that kind of stuff. Did you feel like you were by yourself? Like this was your thing that no one else could dig on, or were there a group of other little nerds for you to hang out with when you were coming up?
Interesting you should say that. I suppose I was by myself in the sense that for a good period of time between middle school and high school, to say I was already drawing comics might have been a stretch, but I really had very other means to showcase my ideas besides trying to draw them out as best as I can, and with the poor panel structure and the sort of compressed attempts at drawing pre-existing characters in this sort of I almost want to say Sunday funny format, if you will. I didn't.
Oh yeah.
There weren't too many other people around me that were actually doing that themselves. At least not in a sequential style. It's just that I used characters that were kind of showing up on TV at the time that people would immediately recognize and just start throwing them in comics. I actually this kind of pervades even to this day, but I am kind of obsessed with crossovers. It's a pretty big obsession in your streams and other people's streams. I'm always going on about either doing crossovers or wanting to crossovers.
See, and I actually feel kind of similar. I'm a huge fan of universes, right? And like I said, it probably comes from coming up with post-crisis DC, where they had built like the single timeline that went back to the dawn of the universe, right? And I love those big scope stories and how like you can have all these little stories that fold together to be life, like our lives, right? Like your story and my story, they're all part of one story. So I think if our fiction does that, then that's cool, right? I dig on that. And so when me and the guys started putting together our comics, we took our different ideas and we mashed them into one universe. And I've just been, like through that last like decade and a half, I've just been picking other characters and other people and working with folks and building, this universe of characters. My buddy Matt Johnson did the webcomic Cortland, and we've crossed over with him. I made the acquaintance of Josh Sortelli, who did Elf Only In, and we've crossed over with him. And so it's semi-official with some of those things, and like their history is part of our history, but our history is not necessarily part of their history with some of those guys. But then recently, our buddy Chris Lore, he has this zombie comedy comic that he's worked on, and he's decided to bring that into the fold. And we're going to be re-releasing a new edition of his first issue in 2021, and working on issue number 2, and going to be doing that up. So those are fun things. I love to do that. So finding ways about working things together. There might be some other things in the works that I can't talk about yet. But yeah, so tell us. So you love the idea of crossing over. Who is? Let's go ahead and get down to this here. Who is Riser Man? What is and who is he? And then after we talk about that a little bit, what is the world he lives in? So,
oh boy, how to describe Riser Man as simply as possible. Let's see, I suppose I could say he's the brilliant star that shines through the night, a speeding blur that confounds crime, and then sort of imply that he's somehow standing or so many different people at once, despite everybody being in different locations. But not seriousness.
So to interrupt you quick, is that like is that like a nod to the whole Darkwing Duck intros? That whole like super pulpy intro?
I won't lie to you. The intro thing is like a 70-30 split between Darkwing Duck and a somewhat obscure anime superhero Hurricane Polymar. Because I noticed that their intros, although Polymars is a lot shorter, but I noticed their intros sound almost the same in translation. Darkwing Duck always goes, "I am the terror that slips in the night. I am the scourge that pecks at your nightmares. I am Darkwing Duck."
Well,
and then Polymar.
And even that has its origins like way back in the beginning of like pop fiction, right? Not the very beginnings of pop fiction, but the pulp era, right? And the radio shows. You'd have the different radio detectives or the different radio heroes that would each have their like tagline, like "I'm called the Whistler," for I know I know the secrets because I walk by night. That was the one. Or the weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.
He's faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Yeah, and all those pulpy intros and a lot of radio show intros where they have these stock bits that would be just enough to give a little flavor, just enough to like let people know what they're in for if they never heard the show before, kind of set the stage for what's about to happen next. And of course, because you have the Superman, the Fleischer cartoons, all that kind of stuff. It leaks way into comics too, or even like Stan Lee's intros, the beginning of Spider-Man or the Fantastic Four, where he'd like go on talking about him at the beginning part of the books, right? And I think that fits into it really, really well. And of course, Darkwing Duck does their homage / pastiche of all of those conventions. So it's fun to see whenever you pop into the chat with that. It's just like, man, it's fun to me because it harkens back to all of that. But it's also fun because you just love to have fun with your character so much, and I think that's neat.
Oh yeah, try to come up with a different intro like every other week and stuff. I think I have a little over a dozen of those by now.
So
and then Hurricane Polymar kind of fits more to what you were saying a second ago, where his intro is more like like whenever evil appears, the wrath of justice summons me. The Phantom Hurricane Polymar stands before you. And that's how I got the mashup between.
Yeah, I like it. So, with the name, right? Because you originally had a very long and hard to pronounce name that. Yeah, it was Henshin Hero Geyser. Is that what? Am I remembering that?
Yes, it's all right. For full disclosure, now that I'm able to say it's on stream, it's actually pronounced Garizer. I found myself trying to be clever and making it sound more like a Japanese tokusatsu superhero. In fact, the whole name Garizer is pretty much just the first half of two different words: Guardian, Armor, Riser, Garizer.
Okay. Okay. So
but that name was way too esoteric and cumbersome for everybody. So
yeah,
I eventually relented, and now he's officially Riser Man.
right.
The
Which
last part of it, the one people met the least saying the name.
right. Well, it's easy to say. I mean, that's a big part of it. Even you look at Tim and Mark's Common America, right? They're going to be
Yeah,
bound in a 20-year struggle for correcting people from saying it's Cayman.
even though that's not how Cayman is spelled either.
Well, yeah, everybody. I mean, but even the people that know it, like they still say it wrong. I think I've seen, some people just say it wrong on purpose, just to make Mark grind his teeth a little.
Yeah, I can understand if but at least people can say America.
One of the things I think is really cool about the way you've taken your character conceptually, using a lot of those Japanese influences with what Tim and Mark have done with Common America,
Oh yeah.
is borrowing from the Eastern hero tradition and the Western hero tradition. And this is one thing that I've talked about on stream before, and I've had Matt Krotz on, and number one Marmaduke fan, and also Carl Toons has come on and talked about it. There's this feedback loop between Japanese hero fiction and American hero fiction, and how they feed into, borrow each other back and forth, and we've been doing that since World War II, and that there's this cultural brothership that goes on, even though they're so different, they still have this similarity between them, and I think it's fun to acknowledge that, and it's also fun to see different people's takes on all of that. And one of the things I talked about before, like the first manga I ever bought was My Hero Academia, because I can't say their names, the guy's name, but he does a better job of American hero comics than a lot of American writers are doing right now, and of course, if you ask about it, it's because we've been poisoned by Europe, but I'm not sure that's true.
Half and half,
half and half, right? So when you were putting Riser Man together, was there a particular other than the tagline thing, was there a particular reason that you wanted to kind of pull from the Asian basket, so to speak?
Well, let's see. Like a lot of energetic young 90s kids, I was very big into Power Rangers. Even though they were pretty fun, they were fairly different from what you'd see in other superheroes. Like, very fun. And in a sense, kind of over the top, and eccentric and execution, but at the same time, it was still like completely straight and genuine, and that's something I kind of respected about the series. It was fun. It was also, and at the same time, felt every bit as heroic as the comic book superheroes from over here. I guess that's kind of what gelled with me is recreatively when it comes to that. Also, it eventually led to the discovery of Common Rider, more specifically, who's essentially a one-man Power Ranger team.
Right. So, and this is another one of those things of being my age, right? Like I grew up with a lot of the Japanimation, we called it back in the 80s, but like I was a little old for the Power Ranger thing when it came out, so like it never resonated with me, right? I just couldn't get my head around it at all. I don't think I could really appreciate Power Rangers at all until my wife made me sit down and watch a bunch of old Godzilla pictures. And then I was starting like, maybe I'm kind of feeling it. But the other thing is getting to know Brian Ball, who is, of Rags. Brian Ball. And oh my goodness, he was that whole what do you call it, Super Sentai thing he's such a fan of. that that he kind of like stuck
Fun
pieces
fact,
of it
Super
inside
Sentai
of rags.
Power
And so I sort of,
Sorry about that.
yeah,
I was saying a bit of a fun fact. Super Sentai is actually what Power Rangers are called in Japan. That was
right.
their original title,
Yeah, yeah.
which I believe translates into Super Squadron. So it's in reference to the fact that there's supposed to be a superhero unit in response to threats to humanity in the world.
Well, yeah, and also like I mean, it was sort of the team version of the Ultraman thing,
Oh yeah,
which
Ultra.
once again,
Another.
what something that like when I was growing up, I saw Ultraman around, but I had no appreciation for it until my wife made me watch a bunch of Godzilla pictures. Then I was like, hmm.
Ironically enough, Godzilla was like the first major thing I was actually exposed to when I was younger. I think I knew all the Godzilla monsters before I even knew my colors. Colors.
That would be an interesting little children's book. It's instead of being shapes and colors, it's Godzilla monsters and colors.
Oh yeah.
Hey, that's a product idea.
Yes, indeed.
Might have to. I may have to make something like that happen.
Also, now that I think about it, all three of those franchises, Ultraman, Power Rangers, and Kamen Rider, while they are all still similar, there is a couple of distinctions between them and stuff. Like, like for example, Kamen Rider never really needed to become a giant robot to finish off a monster. All he'd have to do was do a kick, and they end up blowing up. And then Ultraman specifically seems to fight giant monsters.
Yeah, definitely, and that's actually one thing. Like I'm getting ready. I haven't read it yet, but the Spork Man goes to Japan. I've got the digital files for, but I've been waiting for the trade, and I saw that it's printed now. So, oh man, I'm stoked. But I mean, of course, yeah, it's great. It's great. Especially because the idea that they live in a Japan that's just a Japan that's bombarded by giant monsters. Which is it's a fun thing to think about. But
yeah, if I had to make a nod I'm sorry. I was gonna say
go ahead.
I was gonna say if I had to make a nod to crossovers though, Riser Man is probably the biggest sport man mark out there. even though he battles all sorts of over the top things and actually has superpowers in his mind. As far as he's concerned, Sportman has the top tier superhero.
Well, yeah, I think I love the Sporkman character. I think that, and this goes into part of for me. It's the bent appeal, right? It's the idea that it's so silly, but it's also played so straight. So it's just got this just real fun, like Adam West vibe to it, but it's also like extra wholesome. It's like a level beyond just camp into like my son and I have this debating theory about Don Quixote, right? My oldest boy thinks that Don Quixote is about making fun of ideals and idealism. And I think that Don Quixote is a tragedy about how the world is too messed up for us to be as pure as we should be, right? That the ideals and the dream, the impossible dream kind of stuff that's what the world should be, but it's too messed up for us to live in that world, right?
Huh.
And I kind of see Sporkman in that same light, where even the ridiculousness of his shtick reinforces the better world that he's going for, right? A purer world. And so that's one of the things I really love about his context on that. So, Riser Man, superpowers, what are they?
Oh, whatever superpowers. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wanted to. Well, I won't lie to you. Riser Man's superpowers. Now that I actually did a bit more research into superhero abilities, they've kind of. I don't want to say expanded per se, hey, since I initially talked about him, I'm like, Wicked Publishing. Hey, but let's see. Generally speaking, Riser Man's has like two different power sets given given the origin of how he got his abilities. It's kind of two pronged. There's his physical power, and then there's the actual superpower he possessed when he became Riser Man. Let's see. Long story short, Man's primary ability is his telekinetic abilities. He can levitate. He can make force fields, move things with his mind, use like psionic force blasts and such. But to be honest, those are supplemented by more of a physical augmentation when he became Riser Man, because let's just say Riser. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so is he just the guy going down through his life and like got stuck into a magnetic field and scrambled him, or what's his story there?
Oh, okay. Hey,
real simple, real short. I don't want you to give away all the goodies, but what are we looking at? An accident?
We'll give away all the goodies because the Wicked guys asked me the same thing when I initially brought it up, and since there's a very minimal way to explain it without going in depth. But let's just say Riser Man's powers were forced on him. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a more ideal world, he would not be Riser Man. And let's just say, that it's kind of a curse before it becomes a gift. Yeah.
Right. Okay. No, dude, I like that. That's actually that's been used in other stories really well. There's the Major Bummer is one that was a comedy that had that premise.
Yeah.
But they also did the Starman series in the early 90s. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the guy who Tom Lyle did the art. Tom Lyle passed away a couple years ago, but he did the art for it. And that was the situation where it was a guy. He was just going on about his life, and he was attacked by a beam from a satellite that turned him into the Starman, right? And later he finds out that he was attacked on purpose. There's a mad scientist who took control of the satellite and he was the good candidate. So he hunted him down from space and blasted him.
Wow. That's almost pretty apt to what happened to Riser Man.
Cool.
You should probably explain. You should probably tell you what his actual name is. Before he became Riser Man, he was simply Shawnee. He was simply Shawnee Cruz, a young, brilliant, although kind of offbeat neighborhood detective.
Okay, sort of like an Encyclopedia Jones kind of a thing.
More. I'd say more like a character you'd see in a Hanna-Barbera mystery solving arc.
Okay.
In a different time, Riser Man probably would have had a talking dog following him around on his cases and like Shawnee. I hope part of the humor with Riser Man is that Shawnee Cruz almost feels like he wandered into the wrong genre. I was saying, like imagine if a friggin' Scooby-Doo episode just took a dark turn into like an Image comic.
Yeah. Okay. So, dude, I actually gotta dig that. So, in the world that Rise, and I've seen some of the drawings for the project you guys are working on, which looks sharp as snot. By the way, it looks so much fun.
Oh yeah.
But it's a world where you've got kind of a mix of stuff, kind of a mix of the serious with a mix of the whimsy, which I love.
Yeah.
That's exactly the kind of tone that we try to reach with Force of Good and Evil. frankly speaking. But beyond that, is it a world where you have talking dogs, or is it a world that's a little more serious than that? I mean, how do you guys play that up?
Okay, let's see how to give a proper description of this here. A talking dog can exist in Henshin Riser Man, and but we're also talking but that same talking dog could easily been in an animal that was experimented on by some underground interdimensional aliens testing out their technology on the on the local life and wildlife in the area.
So if you're taking a look at this from a Hanna-Barbera perspective, it's less Scooby-Doo, more Jabberjaws.
Huh, that's actually pretty more accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the
I love that. I love that. That's great. That's a great kind of a setting.
Yeah, if I had to more or less describe Riser Man's world per se, one of the big influences I've had as far as world building was actually Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you believe that. Mm-hmm. If you believe that. I really, with the Ninja Turtles, there's a very, I don't want to say free for all per se, but I really like the idea that the Turtles can and will face virtually anything that just happens to show up in their world. I mean, one day they're fighting foot soldiers, ninja foot soldiers. The next minute they're fighting street gangs. Another time they're fighting interdimensional brains and robot suits, Triceratops, aliens. It's and heck, even other mutant creatures. And I don't know, just the sheer chaoticness of Ninja Turtles is kind of what I hope to bring in with Riser Man. Whatever weird, over the top, and or freaky things that just happens to appear here in his domain, and Riser Man and will face it to the best of his abilities, and that's kind of the approach I went with my series there.
Well, and I don't know if you've heard any of the times I've interviewed Bill Williams, does Punchline, and that's his whole take with the world of Seaholm, right? Where he intentionally doesn't write as much whimsy. It's more of a straight up superhero story, but he very intentionally did his world building where with as few hard rules as possible, so they just leave the doors open for anything. So if you look at he's let slip that the source of Versima's powers, her powers work on the energy properties of the universe. It draws energy from the structure of the universe itself, but the origin of those powers are from Greek myth, and that's something that he's let slip on a couple occasions. So I'm not giving out any spoilers, but that's one of the things that's out there. So he intentionally wanted to have a world where you could play with all of that. And we in our universe, in our Ideal Comics universe, we have a few very fixed rules that we wanted to play with a more restrictive universe. For example, we don't have rules, but for example, one of the ones that's specific to us that I don't think a lot of other comic universes would do is like time travel only works one way in the Ideal Comics universe. You don't get to go back in time; it's only forward. so that's when something happens, it happens, and so that's something that we intentionally put in there years ago, that as a kind of hobbles us a little bit, I think, but it's fun to play with, thinking about how that might happen. So we've got a couple of characters from the golden age that ended up getting blasted forward in time, decades later and had to deal with the consequences of all of that and that kind of stuff. But
that's fun.
yeah. None of those have been on the forefront. They've all been background characters so far, because it takes a while to get that out there. To get, it takes a while to tell those stories. But yeah, that's one thing that I think is. But at the same time, the idea that things can be magic, things can be getting bitten by radioactive badgers, they could be that super science, that whole that intersection of things. I think is just, man, if you're telling if you're telling a story, that's just the way to go with it. I think one of the even though I'm a huge fan of the universe as a whole, I think one of the biggest missteps that DC took in the late 80s was the idea that all superpowers were caused by the meta gene, right? Rather than and they backtracked on that pretty quick. But the idea that basically,
I don't know. I always found the whole human thing personally a bit more consistent than some of the superpower explanations in like Marvel, for example, because from what I've seen, unless I've missed some major lore with DC comics, a metahuman is basically classified as anyone with a superpower.
Yeah.
So it's not like one person with superpowers is okay, while everyone else is a friggin' pariah like Marvel comics.
Yeah, I'll give you that. The difference between the Avengers and the X-Men is literary at best.
Yeah, I always found that a little hypocritical in the Marvel universe. It's like, why are the X-Men being persecuted, but the woman that can shrink to the size of a bee and the guy with literal spider powers is okay? Why is I mean, Captain America I can technically understand, and it's but him and the Hulk, because mass destruction versus war hero and all that, but it just seemed like kind of a I don't know. It just seems like a huge double standard Marvel inadvertently pushed with that.
And that was even brought up in Civil War. The first Civil War was that they were talking about that just being a nonsense argument, but it was just sort of, nobody really took the time to question it. And I mean, comics superhero comics especially are all about the suspension of disbelief anyhow.
Oh, Fantastic Four. I just thought about that too. Ew.
Yeah. Like I said, the superhero books are all about the suspension of disbelief. So some of that makes a lot of sense. Because that's just how it works out. But yeah, it's I think that, but one of the things about the metagene that I found really bothersome was that it made people really finagle about how to discuss the nature of like different kinds of powers. Like for example, the elongated man, he discovered this elixir that would allow him to stretch really bad. Well, they had to go back and Ralph Dibny is one of my favorites, but they had to go back and rewrite his history that said that the stuff in the elixir, this again gold, most people are allergic to it, and his superpower is that he's not allergic to it, and that it gives him more stretchy abilities than it does normal people that aren't allergic to it. And so that's the nature of his real superpower, is that he's got an extreme aversion to the Gingold allergy.
Actually mentioned elongated man. Where the heck is he been?
Well, they killed him.
I mean, yeah, but wasn't that like a long time ago? Him and Sue Dibny.
Sue was killed during Identity Crisis.
I remember that. I'm just saying,
she was a sacrificial lamb for Identity Crisis to make it matter. They killed Sue Dibny, and I was so angry. And then Ralph kills himself during 52, and then they came back during the new 52 in the pages of the Sinister Six by Gail Simone in one of the worst comic series that I've read the entirety of. I hated that so much. And then I guess they were in the Detective Comics 1000. They were part of the Gotham Detectives Club that Bruce finds his way into, and they're around, I guess, officially, but I don't think they've really been used by anyone.
I mean, I'm glad Plastic Man kind of made a resurgence. I'm just kind of bummed Ralph and Suit were kind of in the background.
Yeah, well, and here's a funny little story. 15 years ago, 17 years ago, somewhere in there, when I was pitching to DC, trying to get some attention over there. One of the projects that I was working on that never quite got where I was ready to show anyone was a mini series that was going to be to basically have like a buddy detective like road story where Plastic Man and Elongated Man met each other, and like, you know, ended up having to solve this like series of crimes together using their different style of detecting. And my idea, because nobody was using Plastic Man either at the time, and so my idea was to use it to launch a Plastic Man series that would go back and like retell the story of Plastic Man in a way that would like bring up all of his stories into a single timeline going back to the Golden Age. So
the former turns here.
And one of the premises of it was the search for Woozy Winks was what I was going to try to work in there.
Oh yeah, Woozy Winks. I remember that guy.
And so that was going to be my pitch, but I never quite got it where I wanted to, and DC didn't return my phone calls for any of the other things I sent them. So
yeah, personally, I would have loved to work on the Blue Beetle if I ever had a chance. And when I say Blue Beetle, I mean literally any of the three Blue Beetles. Dan Garrett, Ted Kord, Jaime Reyes, any of the three or all the three.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would be really fun to do, and I love so much of that stuff. But once again, for me, it was sort of weird because I'd always had this inkling in the back of my mind that I'd like to write for DC. But when the New 52 happened and they kind of, you know, shuffled all the timeline again, kind of erased a bunch of stuff, it took a lot of fire out of me because I'd spent a lot of my childhood and adulthood at that point, you know, studying the universe and knowing not all, but a lot of the like minutia and looking for places. I used to be a staff writer for the DC Comics fan magazine, Fanzine. And so I wrote a bunch of stories about really obscure characters and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that was stuff I was working on and trying to get pitches together to try to pitch, you know, like one-shot stories for these obscure characters and try to get somebody to you know, take a look at all that stuff. But when the New 52 happened, it just sort of took the wind out of my sails. And about the same time, it was a little before that Chris and I decided to launch our endeavor with Ideal Comics. And working on web comics, working on print stuff, trying to get people's attention on it. And it just sort of like that it was like, well, DC, if you don't have the universe I want to write in anymore, I guess I'll just make my own.
Oh yeah, I should probably say for full disclosure though, Blue Beetle is actually not one of the influences with Riser Man. The closest thing on that regard would be Ted Kord, and that's because when I first developed Shawnee Cruz long before Riser Man, he actually wasn't going to have superpower hours. He was actually going to rely more on gadgets and a armored suit, which kind of plays out with Riser Man's exo armor. Yeah, that's actually suit. Yeah, the Riser Man suit's actually, you know, part of it's basically like it's almost like a techno-organic exoskeleton, if I'm being accurate with that term.
No, and I really like one of the things going back to the Riser Man thing too is I love the little antenna on the design. It's so retro and fun.
Oh yeah. Riser Man Man, like I said, in the physical domain of his character, he's actually modeled after a tiger beetle.
Okay, cool.
Maybe not by the color scheme, since I've never seen a blue tiger beetle,
Right.
but the idea is they're supposed to be agile, durable, and almost an apex hunter among insects, if you will.
So with Riser Man, he's of course the world he lives in that you guys have written. There are other extraordinary things. Are there other heroes?
As a matter of fact, yeah, yes. I mean, some are a little more closer to Riser Man narratively, but there is supposed to be an expanded universe for Riser Man, but for the time being, I'm only focusing on those in his immediate vicinity, if you will. Well, superheroes that are either directly related to him or are part of the one or two actions he's associated with. So less than a dozen if I had to give a rounded number. I didn't want Riser Man's supposed to be the focus, so I don't want to like oversaturate the series with too many superhero fighters.
No, I get that entirely. I mean, that was one of the risks that we took with the stuff that we've been working on since with 2006. We're coming up on their anniversary tomorrow, actually, of the first Forces strip. And of course, Forces is about kids in superhero and supervillain high school. So of course, there's tons of powered characters, heroes and villains that are just part of the school these kids go to. But then they live in a world with all kinds of different heroes and a bunch of different fictional cities and all kinds of stuff. And so we've done little bits and pieces and stories here and there and here and there. And we've done our printed anthologies, and they're available on our website. And we've got we've started uploading some stuff to Global Comics, that platform. Yeah. Some of it's free, some of it's not. But people go check that out. But that ties into our bigger universe. So it's all kind of out there. So
I've been thinking of posting like Riser Man's initial origin up there, sort of like a free ash can, just to get a feel.
Yeah, it's a platform. We haven't gotten a lot of heat on it yet, but it's really comfortable to use, and it's so, and it, you can set them up so people can pay by the page or whatever. So
that's fair.
So then people take a look at that way, microtransaction it a little bit. So hopefully that's a thing, but we'll see how that goes from there. We've got a couple more stories that'll be going up there weekly. I've got an expositioner story that's coming up there next week. So people can take a look at that. I just uploaded a little thing called "I'm Not Rob Anymore" that one of our artists who worked with us on the first two anthologies, named Brian put together a little wordless 4-page wordless story, and I just put up last night, and it's free. For free forever. That one will be, but yeah, I think it's but we took the idea where we wanted to give people a flavor of our whole universe and try to sell people on the universe as a whole. And that's a hard thing to sell. It's a hard thing to find people like me who want to just dig into a world. So most people want to find a character, and if they like the character, then they'll investigate the world. And I think I'm kind of the other way around, and maybe that's bit me in the butt.
I don't know. I've always been the kind of guy that would come up with a character and then try and develop the world around them and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and actually, the way we started our universe was sort of that way. What happened was Chris and I were both writers, and we were working on different pitches to send to Image, to Dark Horse, to Shooting Star Comics, to Oni, whatever. We were just coming up with like little ideas that we could try to pitch out and try to get some interest on it. we ended up realizing that a bunch of our stories had all these common threads that wove together. And we said, why don't we take these common threads and build a cloth with it? And that cloth became our universe, just based on all these little pieces that we had individually put together. So that was that kind of thing. So we started with characters, and then the characters inhabited a universe. And then before long, the universe was generating its own characters.
Oh yeah.
We built this mental machine, and so now we have several hundred characters, and it's virtually impossible to get all the stories told. So
oh yeah, that's kind of a problem I have for a while. I would just literally pump out ideas, characters, and concept with little time to actually flesh out most of them.
Now you mentioned that you used to draw. Do you still draw?
Oh yeah, I still draw. I'm just not the artist on my own project. That I've I've pretty much delegated that to somebody else, since for all my interest in comics and even manga, I am not especially good at that format.
No. Yeah, I feel you down there. I'm barely an artist at all. I do color work. I do a little touch up on stuff, but man, I don't really have a lot of the.
Yeah, I draw just well enough to convey an idea for other people to draw. Matter of fact, Riser Man is probably the one of the few characters that I've consistently drawn enough time that I probably could do like, I don't know, so I can probably do myself for like fan art and stuff when he's interacting with other people's characters, but that's more or less it. On my best day, I'm a concept art.
Yeah, I feel that.
I have
deep down.
I was gonna say, if there's any real overall skill I have as an artist, is that I technically do ink and color everything I draw myself. And even then it's mostly flat colors.
Yeah.
Very few that have actually added some overall detail. I'm almost certain folks like Ictus 5 like Ictus 5 are way better at coloring inking than I am.
I'll be honest, like I prefer like a lot of flat colors on stuff. I've been doing we're going through our old Forces archive, and we're coloring it a little bit at a time, right? And I've been doing all the coloring on that, and for the most part, I've been using flat colors because I just think it looks better. For a lot of the characters, I mean, I'm doing like gradient backgrounds, skylines, and that kind of thing. But for the most part, the characters are colored flat, and I just think they look better that way for me, for the style we have with it anyway. I know some people that can, just do amazing things with gradient colors and computer coloring and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I just as soon have something done old school. Have where the line work does a lot of the work, and it really gets to be the star of the show. So we did a project earlier this year with Carlos. Is it Rodriguez? I forget his last name at the minute. Who did Otis Stein with Skinny? He did his little superhero monster story for me earlier this year, called Rapunzel Wrong Train, and he just did like a grayscale job to it, and I went through and I colored it, and I was showing it to him, and he's like, these colors are all really flat. And I said, I wanted the lines. Your line work is so great. I wanted it to be the star of the show. So I intentionally left these things. He's like, oh, okay, I can understand that. So hopefully it's good. We'll see. But I like it. So, but yeah. So let's go. Let's change subjects. We're getting close up to 2 hours, except for the time that the stream went down because I'm an idiot.
Hey, that's what's happened. The reason why live stream myself.
Hey, it happens, man. It happens. Let's change topics a little bit. Black Belt Jones. So, was that a film you grew up watching, or what was your exposure to it?
Well, let's see. Honestly, I kind of just happened upon on it one day because my only real exposure to Jim Kelly was through Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon movie. He was Williams, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah, he was the one that got, well, spoilers for a movie that's been around for several decades now, but he was the one that got killed fighting the main villain of that movie, and only because he was blindsided by the freaking claw, by the freaking stone hand. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, but yeah, he was that. But yeah, he was that karate fighter with the giant afro and stuff. He was friends with can't really recall all the other martial arts in that movie. He was like the only other one that lived besides Bruce Lee. but yeah, I kind of recognized one day when I was at Walmart, I found like a collection with like 3 out of 4 movies he was in since there. One was Black Belt Jones, the other was Hot Potato, 3 The Hard Way, and Black Samson.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Black Samson wasn't it. Yeah, he didn't appear in that movie. But all the other ones, he did show up either as himself or as the Black Belt Jones character.
Yeah, and I was actually really intrigued by that movie. I had not seen it before. I may have even got the same thing as you. But let me actually try to show something here. Gotta look something up here. I thought I'd have this ready, but I did not. So
I'm not sure. I'm not sure you noticed this or not. But in Black Belt Jones, we had a bit of a celebrity cameo up in that film. Yeah, the martial arts master of that school, Black Belt Jones, and it was actually played by Scatman Crothers.
Okay, so I wasn't sure it was, but I thought it might be. And here's the interesting thing about this. This is the thing. I gotta show this thing to you here. So years ago, okay, when I was a kid, just talking about Hanna-Barbera, okay, when I was a kid, a little boy sitting in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I grew up, where I spent half my growing up down there, and I discovered Hong Kong Phooey, the cartoon.
#1 super guy.
It was my favorite cartoon for a while, right?
Yes,
and I just loved it so much. So when I was going through building our universe, I wanted some superhero type action in the 1970s, right? And so I created a character, and I'm going to go ahead and this is the first time I've talked about it on stream at all. I'm going to go ahead and try to share the thing here. Come on, share screen. Okay. Application window. Here we go. And this character right here, this is a Ninja Jones, a character that I created. And I didn't know, I had never heard of the Black Belt Jones character. I wanted something that kind of hit that Hong Kong Phooey vibe. Okay, that spoke. It didn't share. Here's
that
hit that Hong Kong Phooey vibe, and I hadn't. I would just barely become aware of Scatman Crothers from being in The Shining. I saw The Shining when I was in my early 20s, and so I know there was the Hong Kong Phooey thing, and I knew about. I hadn't seen a lot of blaxploitation films, and so I wasn't aware of Black Belt Jones, right? So the name was coincidental, but this was the character that was inspired by Hong Kong Phooey, and I wanted to do a relatively serious martial arts film inspired super character that was an African American man, right? To reflect my love of Hong Kong Phooey, right?
No, essentially Bronze Tiger.
It was kind of like the Bronze Tiger. Yeah, there was definitely some of that going in there.
I don't mean to. Yeah, I'm not trying to mess with you, right? And
No,
it's just that coincidentally enough, when DC was doing these Hanna-Barbera DC superhero crossovers, they had recently done one where Hong Kong Phooey teamed up with Black Lightning, and one of the characters they fought in that comic coincidentally was Bronze Tiger, along with Cheshire.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I just thought the comparison was pretty uncanny, as a matter of fact.
So here's the thing, right? I had been working on this character. This is actually art that I did like 15 years ago. So this is this is me drawing.
So better than what I was drawing 15 years ago.
And so I was working on, and I had I've only got 2 pages of what was going to be probably a 4 or 5 page story that just didn't ever get finished. I got busy working on some other stuff, and we've referenced Ninja Jones in Forces here and there, and he's been part of that. In the interim, right? I became aware of the Afro Samurai character from the anime, and I was like, man, do I need to shutter this Ninja Jones character that I came up with? Is it going to be just people are going to say I'm just ripping off Afro Samurai, right? I don't want that. Well, in the middle of all of this, I found because I still am unaware of Black Belt Jones, mind you. This is I still don't know about it. But I was at the dollar store and I saw the DVD of the Afro Ninja movie that one stuntman, I can't remember his name right now, made. And I bought it. I said, okay, this is too weird. It's another Afroed martial artist. I have to look into this. And of course, he references Black Belt Jones because he was the reason that stuntman got into martial arts and got into doing stuntman was because he was a huge Jim Kelly fan. And that's where I found out about the Black Belt Jones movie. And I had never really thought about looking into it any more than that because I was still conflicted about what am I going to do with my Ninja Jones character. I have this story, this whole backstory that I want to get into telling, and everything, but I wasn't sure how to play into all of that. And so then when you said, Reese, you have to watch Black Belt Jones, I said, okay. Okay. I have to go back to see where it began, this huge chain of things. That, for me, started with Scatman Carruthers.
For what it's worth, Matt, for what it's worth, if not Black Belt Jones, just type in just type in Jim Kelly and you're bound to get your fill from it.
Oh, I know. But that's the crazy thing is, so here I have this character that fits into this legacy from Jim Kelly that I didn't even realize was entirely part of that. And so to go back and watch Black Belt Jones and to just see, Jim Kelly as stunt martial artist, how much fun he had with that, the skill that he had with that, to see just just the fun that the production was, where everybody's just enjoying it,
Oh yeah.
And I really, it was very much a time of its times, something like that. I don't know that it could get made today,
Well, depending on the circles.
Yeah, in certain circles, but it definitely was something that there was just a lot of love and a lot of fun that went into it, and definitely was something that looking at I'm not going to say I'm part of that, but there's a chain of interest. I mean, like, I don't think you would have had Hong Kong Phooey if you wouldn't have had Jim Kelly, in Enter the Dragon. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And without there being Hong Kong Phooey, I would never have created Ninja Jones. So
I was gonna say, to be fair, both Kung Fu films and blaxploitation did get big around the same time, which is Hong Kong Phooey.
Well, and there's a huge correlation between those, right?
Indeed.
and I think that's just a really an interesting little take on all of that. So,
Well, which being Scatman Crothers.
well, with Scatman Crothers, and so I had to I wanted to share this with you, talk about that whole thing, and thank you so much for pointing me directly and really kind of you didn't, I don't think you meant to needle me into seeing Black Belt Jones, but your recommendation really kind of pushed me to the edge and said, okay, I have to seek this out. I've got to find it. And I was able to do that, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you.
Hey, happy to help. The subject of blaxploitation kind of came up, and I kind of just wanted to get involved, so I just very much name dropped all the ones I've seen and would recommend.
Well, and I think one of the things is really, going back to the, going back to the whole indie, the concept of indie, right? Because being part of indie comics, indie movies, a lot of those movies were made, by some of those people in the market, right? They were making movies for, they're making these stories for their market, right? I think that's part of why blaxploitation became so popular, is because it wasn't just exploitative. There were people that were in the community making movies for the community, and I think that's something that there's a lot of, even though Warner Brothers released it or whatever, there still has this very indie feel to it. Where people are they're low budget, but they're being made for the market and by people that they know that it'll sell. And I think that's got that indie spirit to a lot of those kind of things. It's just fun. It's just fun, man.
You want some epic indie B films? Try looking up some of the films they made in the Philippines. I think they had like a whole documentary about that if I can remember what it was called.
Yeah. I couldn't help you. I have no idea.
Yeah, big horror fans over there. I've noticed that.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
So.
Also a bit of another fun. Yeah, a bit of another fun fact in that regard. Jim Kelly was actually a huge influence on a lot of my earlier concepts, so much so that two other supporting heroes in Rise of Man story are coincidentally named after both Jim Kelly and his character from Enter the Dragon. Yes, yeah, I think I sent you like an image of them on the Twitter DMs and stuff.
Yeah, that's fun, man. That's fun. So, yeah, I think that's just it's just such a part of our vocabulary, even with how we look at action movies, that owes a lot to Kelly that I don't think that younger generations necessarily even know. Bruce Lee gets a lot of top billing, but like his supporting cast owes him a lot. I mean, he owes his supporting cast a lot of credit for all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. So, Heck, Jackie Chan even showed up and Enter the Dragon 2. Matter of fact, as one of the henchmen Bruce Lee fought in the island. You want to know a trick to figure out who he was in that film?
Oh, dude!
Look for literally the only henchman to lay a finger on Bruce Lee, and there's Jackie Chan.
Cool.
Probably got the worst of it because of that, but good God, he's like the only person that can even touch him.
Dude, I just saw that picture you sent over. That's awesome.
Yep.
So, well, man, we have been at it for a couple of hours, although Carl just showed up in the chat.
Oh, hey, Carl.
Yeah, man. That guy.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I have to be completely honest. Carl is one of my favorite people.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's just, I mean, not like in the world, like, I mean, just my wife, my kids, that kind of stuff. But every time he shows up in my Twitter timeline, good stuff.
Carl, but we gotta do a comic together as well. I got like at least two concepts that your art would be amazing for.
Yeah. He and I have worked on one that hopefully we'll be able to get the funding to make happen here soon. But that's the ticket. I've got a perfect project for him.
Hey, I'll be happy to go own it. And if you have some.
So, hey, check it out. Carl wants to work with you.
Ah, sweet.
So,
oh yeah, matter of fact, Carl even did a pretty awesome drawing of Riser Man as well.
Cool.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm not sure how if he showed anyone the
I don't think I've seen it, but I'd like to. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about it here because it's the end of the show.
Wow.
But we had been I pitched an idea to Carl about a year ago, and we had a negotiation and everything would be great. It's just a matter of lining stuff up, so it's worth his time. But which I totally respect. But it's a story about our hero Chad, from hero school, who grows up to be an apprentice hero in Lincoln, Nebraska, and goes on an adventure there. It's called Welcome to Lincoln, Mr. Little. And I am going to go ahead and share the first page because it's my show.
That's the spirit.
There you go. I just got to find it quick here. It is. We'll go ahead and load up the small version. Wait a second. I hit the wrong option there. If that's not right. Jeepers, Matthew. There we go. Look at that. So yeah, that's the ticket right there.
Yes,
that's the
art.
I love it. Someday,
I love it too. But
someday this story will get finished, and it's going to be amazing. So
whatever you need, man, and I'll be happy to help donate to that.
So, anyhow, guys, Neil Starr, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I've been wanting to have you on for a really long time because I love the energy. I love the passion. I love the whimsy that you bring whenever you start talking about Riser Man, and I'm excited to see where you go with that story. So definitely keeps in mind. If you ever do like a launch or whatever, I'd love to have you on again to talk about it. If you want to bring your artist on or whatever, that'd be great too.
I even made a personal pact on that 2021 will be the year of Henshin Hero Riser Man. Come hell or high water, I will make that happen somehow.
I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for it. Thanks you guys who tuned in, for showing up, for coming in, for chiming in on the chat. The special Saturday edition. Next Thursday, I don't remember what's happening. We're going to be back to our regular Thursday show coming up this week, but I do not remember who I have coming on. I know the week after that, we're having Tim Lim, and we're having Mark Pellegrini, I believe. And because they're getting ready, they will have just launched Common America 3 on Wednesday, and then they're coming here on Thursday to talk about it. But we're also having, I think we're having Trent and Brian from Rags on as well. And the theme is actually not Common America 3. It's pop culture in your comic. Yes or no? So
that'd be a fun theme.
So that's our theme. We're having those guys on. And I think Cody from Cody Fernandez with Jack Irons is going to be on too. So, but that's 2 weeks. I can't remember who's going to be here like in 5 days. So we'll have to see. But I can't remember who I lined up for it, and I didn't look it up before starting the show today. So anyway, we're gonna call it today. And again, thanks to Neostar Productions for coming on. Looking forward to Riser, man. And oh, hey, RJ just showed up too, here for the curtain call. But
it's okay.
You can watch the replay, and you can see all the awkwardness when my computer died in the middle.
And I had to friggin' fell dead air.
Yeah, you did. And what a champ! What a champ coming on as a guest and carrying the show. I appreciate that, man. So I do. I'm not even making it up. So
even though I just rambled like 3 of those minutes. And just started snaking on me here after not realizing it was still alive.
Such a moron. Well, and a lot of times I'll try to get several guests on. What I kind of wanted to do today, man, was I was going to go ahead and if we had a bunch of people to chat, I was going to drop the link in the chat and let people jump on. But there was just a couple people, and they were kind of coming and going. It looked like, so I didn't know that if anyone was really even listening for that part. And it was just had fun talking. Anyway, man, we'll catch you later. Check. It's Flash Shadow is your Twitter handle.
Flash Shadow 17.
There you go. Follow him, dudes. Check out how Riser Man's coming along. I think it's gonna be fun. And we will see you all around the interwebs. Night, everybody.